Every MLB franchise has that one moment. The gut punch, the heartbreaking collapse, the scandal that fans wish they could erase from history. From devastating walk-offs to historic meltdowns, here's the one moment every MLB team wants you to forget. It's the most infamous choke in Yankees history. Up 3-0 in the 2004 ALCS against their biggest rival, the Red Sox.
All the way around, it's a 3-run double.
New York was already thinking about the World Series. No team in history had ever blown a 3-0 series lead in MLB postseason history.
Pinch runner Dave Roberts is going to come in for Boston.
Then came the moment.
Roberts is going. Posada's throw. Roberts safe.
That changed everything. Big Papi's heroics followed. Then came 4 straight Boston wins. The Yankees unraveled on the biggest stage and in the harshest spotlight. That collapse didn't just cost them a pennant. It flipped the script on the rivalry and gave birth to a Red Sox dynasty, breaking an 86-year curse in the process. But long before that comeback, Red Sox fans already knew heartbreak better than anyone. It's the moment that haunted Red Sox fans for decades. Game 6 of the '86 World Series. The Red Sox were 1 out away, 1 out from their first championship since 1918. A slow grounder off Mookie Wilson's bat. And then,
little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
the Mets tied this series. Then, they won Game 7. And the curse, still alive. Buckner became the face of the collapse, unfairly blamed for a team-wide meltdown. It took 18 more years and one unforgettable comeback to finally silence the ghosts.
The Boston Red Sox are world champions.
Some teams break your heart once, others do it slowly, day by day. It was theirs to lose, and they did. In 1987, the Blue Jays were cruising towards the playoffs, on pace to win 100 games with just 7 left to play. All they needed was a couple of wins to clinch. But then, the collapse began.
Little sliver, and the Tigers face the
They lost every game down the stretch, 7 straight, and on the final day of the season, they were officially eliminated. A week earlier, they were October bound. In the end, it became one of the most devastating collapses in franchise and MLB history. But sometimes one call can change everything. It was the moment that broke Rays fans. Game 6 of the 2020 World Series. Blake Snell was dealing shutout baseball, just 2 hits allowed, in total command. Then, with 1 out in the 6th, the call came.
Man, you talk about a short leash. We'll see how it works out.
Cash pulls Snell. The bullpen comes in, and everything unravels. The Dodgers rally.
Cheetah bets a hanger that's drilled to deep left center field and gone!
They win the game.
Call strike 3! The Dodgers win! Finally!
They win the championship. For a franchise built on analytics, it became the ultimate second guess. That one move turned a potential Game 7 into a lifelong what if. To this day, fans still say, he should have left him in. By the way, you may have noticed this is a brand new channel, so if you're enjoying the video so far, a quick subscribe would mean the world and help us keep making more content like this. But what the Orioles went through in 1988 was next level misery. The Orioles opened the 1988 season with high hopes and immediately face-planted. It started with a 12-0 loss on opening day to the Brewers at Memorial Stadium.
For Milwaukee, no runs, 5 hits, and 2 errors for Baltimore.
By Game 6, Cal Ripken Sr. was fired. Frank Robinson took over, but it didn't help.
No one has ever started a season this pitifully.
Eddie Murray, Fred Lynn, even the stars couldn't stop the bleeding. Losses piled up.
Could be trouble down the line. Orsolak coming over, and he overran the ball.
10 in a row.
Stone coming in, and he loses it in the lights.
Then 15. Then 18.
Line may have a chance, and nope, it's off his glove.
The Baltimore Orioles tied a major league record yesterday that they would just as soon forget. 13th straight loss, and that equals the worst start ever by a major league team.
The streak finally ended on April 29th with a 9-0 win over the White Sox. And fans celebrated like it was a playoff clinch.
Ladies and gentlemen, at 21, the streak is history.
But the damage was done. 0 for 21 remains the worst start in MLB history, a symbol of rock bottom in Baltimore baseball. Now, what happens when a bad idea turns into total chaos? It was supposed to be a fun midsummer promotion. July 12th, 1979, Comiskey Park, a doubleheader against the Tigers. Between games, anti-disco radio DJ Steve Dahl led a stunt called Disco Demolition Night. The plan? Blow up a crate of disco records in center field.
This is now officially the world's largest anti-disco rally.
It was absolute mayhem. Over 50,000 fans packed the stadium. Many just came to wreak havoc. Once the explosion went off, the crowd swarmed the field. Fires, fights, the turf destroyed.
This is Bill Beck. Please clear the park, or we'll have to call off the game and close the park.
The second game, forfeited. The White Sox didn't just lose a game, they became the face of one of baseball's most bizarre disasters. But this next idea ended in a full-on riot. What started as a cheap promotion turned into one of the wildest disasters in MLB history. June 4th, 1974, Cleveland hosted the Rangers and offered fans unlimited 10-cent beers. For reference, that's about $2 per beer today.
Thousands reportedly outside still hoping for tickets. Then things began to unravel.
By the fifth inning, the wheels were off. Streakers on the field, fans mooning the Rangers' dugout, firecrackers thrown into the bullpen.
This has been a night of blatant stupidity.
Then came the ninth inning. A fan tried to steal a Ranger player's cap, and all hell broke loose. An all-out brawl erupted between players and drunk fans.
On the ground, and he is really administering a beating. Just pulling him up and hit him from behind is what happened.
The field was stormed. Bats were swung in self-defense. The umpires had no choice but to forfeit the game to Texas.
I must have had probably 15 or 20 pounds of hot dogs thrown at me at playing first base.
To this day, it's the most embarrassing night in Cleveland baseball history. And yet, no amount of chaos compares to the worst call in history. It was one of the most gut-wrenching what could have been moments in modern baseball. June 2nd, 2010. Armando Galarraga was 1 out away from perfection. The crowd in Detroit was on its feet. The tension unreal.
Right side, Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers. He's out. No, he's safe.
The runner was out. Everyone in the stadium saw it, except Jim Joyce, who called him safe.
And here comes Jim Leyland. Oh, my goodness.
Galarraga didn't argue. He just smiled in disbelief. Replays confirmed the obvious. The perfect game was gone. Afterward, Joyce tearfully admitted the mistake and apologized. But the damage was done.
A man that has been umpiring in the major leagues for over 20 years. He has seen it all, and he has done it all.
Galarraga would never get that moment back. in baseball history missed out on one of its most unlikely perfect games. You think you've seen weird? We're just getting started. In a season already full of struggles, the Royals added one of the weirdest moments in team history. September 8th, 2009. Royals versus White Sox. Slugger, the team's lion mascot, launched a hot dog into the stands using an air cannon. Then, one of those foil-wrapped dogs hit a fan named John Coomer in the eye.
Being sued by a fan, he was hit by a hot dog, which was thrown by Slugger, the mascot.
He suffered a detached retina, 2 surgeries, permanent vision damage. He sued, and the case made national news. Was it negligence? Or just part of the fan experience?
When things come at you that you don't expect or don't anticipate or didn't ask for, I think it's, a little unfair.
A Missouri jury ultimately ruled that getting hit by a hot dog wasn't an inherent risk of attending a baseball game, but cleared the Royals anyway. The incident became a cautionary tale for mascots everywhere, because sometimes the worst hits don't come from the players, they come from the concession stand. Sometimes the worst decisions don't make headlines until years later. In 2003, the Twins made a decision they'd probably like to forget. They released David Ortiz.
Deep to right field. Ortiz hits one into the upper deck.
At the time, he wasn't Big Poppy. He was just a young player with pop and potential. But the Twins didn't see it. They had Doug Menkowitz at first, and they needed pitching. Ortiz, well, he was expendable, so they let him walk. He signed with the Red Sox, and everything changed.
Hard hit into right, back at the wall, tie game!
Ortiz became one of the most clutch hitters in baseball history. 10 All-Star appearances, 7 Silver Sluggers, and 3 World Series rings. Meanwhile, the Twins were left watching from afar and wondering what might have been. Letting Ortiz go, it's still one of the most painful what were they thinking moments in franchise history. And sometimes the spotlight finds you, whether you wanted to or not. They won the World Series, but it's forever tainted. In 2017, the Houston Astros were on top of the baseball world. But behind the scenes, a camera in center field. Bang bang cues from the dugout. The Astros use real-time signals to relay opposing pitches, and the edge worked.
That one is launched down the left field line, and it is gone.
The scandal exploded. The MLB dropped the hammer. $5 million fine. GM and manager suspended. Reputations shattered. But the players? Not one faced discipline. And to this day, when fans talk about the 2017 championship, one question always lingers. Did they really earn it? It's the most controversial title in baseball history, and no amount of banners will make fans forget. But what if I told you that you could win it all and still walk away with nothing? In 2001, the Seattle Mariners were unstoppable.
The 0-2 pitch on the way, strike 3 call, and the Mariners have 100 wins here in 2001.
116 regular season wins, tied for the most in MLB history. Ichiro was a rookie and an MVP. But in the postseason, all that dominance vanished. The Yankees steamrolled them in the ALCS, winning the series in just 5 games. Seattle never made it to the Fall Classic. That record-setting team, with the best win total in history, didn't even get a shot at the title, and they haven't been back to the ALCS since. Those 116 wins, a reminder of everything that could have been, but wasn't. And as the Mariners clung to history, the A's were preparing to leave theirs behind. In 2023, after years of slow decline and bitter negotiations, the Oakland A's finally made their move to Las Vegas.
Silent and now getting very loud at the Coliseum.
They left behind a loyal fan base, a rich history, and a city that stuck by them through it all. From the swinging A's of the 70s to the Moneyball miracle runs of the early 2000s, the writing had been on the wall for years. A crumbling stadium, failed stadium proposals, and a franchise unable to reach a deal to stay in Oakland. Vegas may be a hot new destination, but it'll take more than bright lights to erase the decades of history they left behind. Sure, it's a fresh chapter, but for Oakland fans, it's heartbreak. Some heartbreaks happen fast. Others, they come back for seconds. The Rangers were on the brink of their first ever World Series title.
They're 1 out away from their first championship.
Game 6, up 3-2 in the series. 2 outs, 2 strikes. David Freese steps up.
Into right, well hit. Back at the wall. It's off the wall. Here comes Berkman.
Tie game. They go to extra innings. Again, the Rangers get within a strike.
The 1-1, strike 2 on Berkman, and again the Cardinals are down to their last strike.
And again, it slips away. Another run, and then
Freese hits it in the air to center.
Freese ends it with a bomb. The Rangers are stunned. Game 7, they never recovered. It was more than a blown lead. It was 2 shots at history, both erased 1 pitch at a time. You can have the biggest stars in the world and still never shine. 2 generational superstars. Mike Trout, one of the best players ever, and Shohei Ohtani, a once-in-a-century talent doing what's never been done before. And the Angels, year after year, nothing. No playoff wins, no momentum, no future in sight. They spent big. They built around stars, but somehow they never made it work. 2 MVPs, 0 playoff wins. And it's not just a missed opportunity, it's a failure of historic proportions. This next team had everything, until it didn't. The Braves had it all in 1996. A dominant rotation. Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, John Smoltz, and a stacked lineup.
Side, great play by Chipper Jones.
Chipper Jones, Fred McGriff, and Javi Lopez. They took the first 2 games of the World Series at Yankee Stadium. It looked like a dynasty in the making.
There's no secret as to why they're here. Hooking off the pole for a home run. And it's 9-0 Braves in the 5th.
And then it all fell apart. The Yankees stormed back. 4 straight wins. The Braves' pitching collapsed. The bats disappeared. The defending champs never won another game. It wasn't just a lost title. It was the moment the dynasty died before it truly began. Some endings are sudden, some are historic. This one, both. Game 6, 1993 World Series. The Phillies were clinging to a 6-5 lead in the bottom of the 9th. Mitch Wild Thing Williams took the mound. He was known for chaos, and this was no exception. On a 2-2 count, Carter unloaded.
Here's a pitch on the way, a swing and a belt. Left field, way back. The Blue Jays are World Series champions.
He danced around the bases. The Sky Dome erupted. Meanwhile, the Phillies stood frozen. It's one of the greatest moments in World Series history, but for Philly, it's the one they'd delete if they could. Sometimes reaching the top is just the beginning of the end. The Florida Marlins did the impossible, won the World Series just 5 years after becoming a franchise.
Off Nagy's glove into center field. The Marlins have won the World Series.
But what happened next was even more shocking. Just weeks later, the roster was gutted. Kevin Brown, Moises Alou, Bobby Bonilla, Gary Sheffield, all gone. Owner Wayne Huizenga blamed finances. No stadium deal, no revenue. But fans didn't see logistics. They saw betrayal. 108 losses the following year. The worst record ever for a reigning champ. The banner might still hang, but the heartbreak still lingers. For the Mets, it wasn't demolition. It was one moment that still makes no sense. The Mets were one swing away. Game 7 of the 06 NLCS. Shea Stadium was electric. Down 3-1 in the 9th, they rallied. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Carlos Beltran, their $119 million superstar, stepped up. And then it happened.
Bases loaded, 2 out. Strike 1. Strike 2.
On an 0-2 count, Cardinals rookie Adam Wainwright unleashed a curveball so sharp it might have carved glass.
Breaking ball struck him out, and the Cardinals have won the pennant.
And Beltran froze. Bat on his shoulder, called strike 3. Season over. That pitch didn't just end the Mets' playoff run. It burned itself into baseball history. No swing, no shot, no explanation. Just silence in Queens. Somehow, the silence in Montreal was even louder. In 1994, the Montreal Expos had it all. Pedro Martinez, Larry Walker, Moises Alou. A record of 74-40, the best in baseball. This was their year. But then, baseball stopped.
Well, it is now official. No more regular season, no extended version of the playoffs, and for the first time since 1904, no World Series, Brendan.
The players went on strike. The season was canceled. No postseason, no World Series. Just a hard, bitter stop. That was the turning point, and the Expos never recovered. Attendance tanked. Stars were sold off. And a decade later, the team was gone, relocated to Washington, D.C. The best team they ever had never got the shot it earned. And the strike didn't just take the season, it took the soul of baseball in Montreal. But in Chicago, this moment haunted the whole city. The Cubs were 5 outs away. Game 6, 2003 NLCS. Up 3-2 in the series. Wrigley was electric. This was finally their year. And then the foul ball.
Reaching into the stands and could get it. He's livid with a fan.
Steve Bartman, headphones, glasses, green turtleneck, reached for the ball. Alou couldn't make the catch. The Cubs unraveled. 8 runs, total collapse. Game 6, gone. Game 7, gone too. Bartman became the scapegoat. But the truth, it was never just him. The team had the lead, the game, the series, and they let it all slip. They'd finally break the curse in 2016, but 2003, that was the ghost Wrigley couldn't shake. And if you think that was brutal, just wait until you see what happened in St. Louis. The Cardinals were 3 outs away. Game 6 of the '85 World Series. Up 3-2 in the series and up 1-0 in the game. One clean inning and they'd be world champs.
Little swimmer to the right side. Worrell races over to cover. The throw doesn't get him.
The throw beat him, clearly, but Denkinger called him safe. The replay was obvious. The call, catastrophic. St. Louis unraveled, and the Royals scored twice to win Game 6, then steamrolled them 11-0 in Game 7. A dynasty derailed in an instant. To this day, Denkinger is a 4-letter word in St. Louis. That missed call didn't just cost a game. It changed baseball history. Flash forward, and another team finds itself on the wrong side of history. Game 7 of the 1982 World Series still stings for longtime Brewers fans. But for a new generation, what happened in October 2024 might be worse. It was Game 3 of the Wild Card Series. The Brewers were 6 outs from moving on. Jake Bauers homered.
Swing and a high fly ball, right field, on its way, gone!
Sal Frelick homered.
And now it's Frelick! That one's out of here!
The crowd at American Family Field was roaring. And to top it all off, Bob Uecker was calling it his final postseason broadcast. Then came Pete Alonso.
Well, it is bite your fingernails time for Carlos Mendoza and for
2 on, 1 out. The pitch from Devin Williams.
Swing and a ball drilled at the wall. Out of here!
Gone. The stadium fell dead silent. Frelick's heroics erased. Uecker's farewell hijacked. And the season over. And for many Brewers fans, that swing became the most brutal moment in franchise history. Sometimes your worst moment is out of your control. It was the summer of 2011, and for the first time in years, the Pirates were relevant. A young, exciting team. Hope in Pittsburgh. A real shot at breaking their decades-long playoff drought. Then came July 26th. A 19-inning marathon against the Braves at Turner Field. The game was tied 3-3. It was 2 a.m. The Pirates were exhausted, and so were the fans, but they were still battling. Bottom of the 19th, Lugo breaks for home.
A ground ball to third, breaking for the plate, the throw, and they got him. No! He called him safe! He called him safe! Jerry Meals called him safe! The throw beat him by a mile!
The throw beats him, and McHenry makes the tag, clearly. And then, Jerry Meals says safe. You can see McHenry's disbelief. The Pirates lose. But it wasn't just the game they lost. That blown call shattered their momentum. They spiraled, finished below 500 again, and a season full of promise died on the spot. Meals would later admit he got it wrong, but for Pirates fans, that night still feels rigged. That wasn't a missed call, it was robbery. What happens when your greatest hero becomes the game's biggest villain? Pete Rose was the Cincinnati Reds icon, the hometown hero, the all-time hits leader, the face of the Big Red Machine. But in 1989, everything came crashing down. After years of denial, Rose finally admitted he had gambled on baseball, including on his own team while managing the Reds.
I was wrong. I just stupid. Worst thing I ever did in my life.
It was a devastating blow, not just to his legacy, but to the pride of the franchise. The man who defined hustle and intensity was now blacklisted, permanently banned from the Hall of Fame. His 1997 appeal went unanswered, and decades later, debates still rage over whether he deserves redemption.
The game.
Did you ever bet against your own team?
No. That'd be the last thing I'd ever even consider.
For Reds fans, it was more than a scandal. It was the moment their greatest legend became baseball's biggest pariah. But what happens when the truth comes out after the fact? The Dodgers were built for this. 104 wins, a vintage Kershaw season, Corey Seager becoming a star, their first World Series appearance since 1988, 7 games of madness. They fought. Game 2, wild.
10th inning, Altuve into left center field, back at the wall, it is gone!
Game 5, instant classic.
That's in the air to left, here comes Fisher, throw by Ethier, Astros win it!
Then came Game 7 in LA.
Sanchez success. Here's a ground ball right side, could do it. The Houston Astros are world champions.
Dream over. But the heartbreak hadn't even started, because 2 years later, the truth dropped. The Astros had cheated. Cameras in center field, live feeds, and trash can bangs. The team that beat them in 7 games never played fair. And the Dodgers, they got nothing. No rematch, no vacated title, no suspensions for players. Just a $5 million fine and a lifetime of what-ifs. 2020 brought redemption for the Dodgers. But it wasn't the same, because in 2017, LA didn't just lose the World Series, they were robbed of it. Sometimes the worst moment has nothing to do with baseball. The Bay Area was ready. Giants versus A's. A rivalry for the ages. Game 3, October 17th, 1989. Moments before the first pitch at Candlestick Park.
Now, Michaels, welcome to Game 3. It's been dominant Oakland pitching, of course, in the first 2 games.
Suddenly, the ground shook.
I'll tell you what, we're having an earthquake.
A 6.9 magnitude earthquake rocked the city.
As you may know by now, a rather severe earthquake measuring 6.5 on the Richter scale in San Francisco.
Bridges collapsed. Power lines went down, and people were trapped. Baseball stopped. 10 days passed before play resumed, but the Giants, they never recovered. The A's came out ruthless, outscoring San Francisco 32-14 and sweeping them in 4. The pride of the Bay turned into panic. The Giants made it to the World Series and got buried by more than just the scoreboard. A series remembered not for baseball, but for the tragedy that stole the spotlight.
Well, folks, that's the greatest open in the history of television, bar none.
It's one thing to lose. It's another to get completely outclassed. This was the dream. Tony Gwynn, Trevor Hoffman, a Padres team that shocked the world to win the pennant.
Michael Tucker with 2 out, nobody on. The fly ball into shallow left center. Long run for Finley. The Padres are going to the 1998 World Series.
San Diego was buzzing. And for a moment, it looked like they belonged. Game 1 leading 5-2. Then
Martinez down the right field line. Grand slam.
Gone. Grand slam. Game flipped. The Yankees never looked back. The Padres got swept, outscored 26-13. No comebacks, no drama, just pure domination. And what stung most? That was Tony Gwynn's only shot at a ring. A Hall of Fame legend on the wrong side of a baseball bulldozer. In 1998, the Padres didn't just lose, they got steamrolled.
Yankees just played great baseball. They're the most balanced club I think I've ever seen.
The Rockies caught fire at the perfect time, but October has a way of testing belief. Rocktober. A run so hot, so unreal, it felt like destiny.
We were confident. We were ready to play anybody, anytime, anywhere.
The Rockies won 21 of 22.
To right field. Giles is there to make the catch, tagging his Holiday. The throw to the plate, he is safe. The Colorado Rockies are the National League wild card winners.
They swept the Phillies.
On the ground right side, Matsui to first. The Colorado Rockies are headed to the National League Championship.
They swept the D-backs.
Check swing roller.
The Rockies caught fire at the perfect time, but October has a way of testing belief. For the first time ever, Colorado was going to the World Series.
Well, they're hot. You know that. First team since the 76 Reds to start the postseason 7-0.
But then came the wait. The Red Sox were still finishing off the ALCS, so the Rockies sat 8 full days. By the time Game 1 rolled around, the fire was out.
Blew him away and the ball game is over.
Game 2, same story. Game 3 and 4, just formality. They were swept. Outscored 29-10. And what started as a miracle,
tonight's our night, we're going to win,
turned into a meltdown.
At least I'm glad the last game was competitive.
Rockies fans waited years for a moment like that, and all they got was a cold reminder of baseball's cruel timing. Every October has a surprise team, but some stories cool off fast. The 2023 Diamondbacks were built different. No one expected them to even make the playoffs, but they shocked the Brewers. They stunned the Dodgers, and they silenced Philly in a Game 7 stunner. Then came the World Series. Game 2, dominant, a 9-1 statement win. And then, silence. From games 3 to 5, the bats froze and mistakes piled up.
Comes home to Jonah Heim, and Heim grounds the first one to Walker. Has a hard time getting it out of his glove, and it's in air.
They got beat by Corey Seager and a team that hadn't won a ring in 60-plus years. The Diamondbacks lost 3 straight, including games 4 and 5 at home, and watched the Rangers celebrate on their turf. They weren't just beaten, they were exposed. And what made it worse? People stopped believing the D-backs were ever legit in the first place. The hottest team in October turned ice cold when it mattered most. Because in baseball, some moments fade, but these live forever.